Hello, this is going to be another unboxing video. I'm feeling very low, but I'm going to try and make this as cheerful as possible because it's a very happy occasion to get a gift. This gift has come from Saudi Arabia. It's funny, on the sticker it said, "Parcel will be destroyed if not delivered," which is a bit extreme. This has come from Scottlo, who's a very special person to me. Scottlo was one of the world's first podcasters. He was a pioneer of podcasting and has inspired me so much in so many things. And I was actually privileged enough for him to come and live with me for, I think, just 2 or 3 months. But it was really wonderful to get to spend time with him. And he's now living in Saudi Arabia, so I'll talk about him later. But first of all, I'm going to open up this package. And the city is called Daman, D-A-M-M-A-N, which is yeah, I think it's in Saudi Arabia. So I'm sure he's experiencing lovely warm weather, and it's getting very cold, well, starting to get cold in Japan, and because of my chemotherapy I feel the cold more. So I'm in a very bad way at the moment. I have been for a few weeks now because of the chemotherapy. So it's such a lovely thing to get this gift from all the way from Saudi Arabia. And just opening it now. Okay, so there's a letter, which I'm not going to read because it might be quite private. There's a box of orange Turkish Delight, which I've never seen before. Turkish Delight is a favourite food of mine because it just reminds me of my time in places like Turkey and Greece and Egypt. I've usually seen rose Turkish Delight and lemon Turkish Delight, but never orange, so that's going to be a real treat. And it's kind of hard for me to get enjoyment from food at the moment, so that's going to be a really nice thing to have. Really looking forward to that. And then there's a whole bag of interesting, unique Arabic sweets. I'm really looking forward to trying these. It says nuts are good, nuts are healthy, and it's like one of these Ziploc bags, and it smells incredible. So lots of like nougat type things in here, different kind of jellied candies. Like sort of fruit things. Something with what looks like pistachio nuts. It's just a huge bag of these things. Get them right up to the camera. So really looking forward to eating these over the next few weeks because there's so many. Trying to drop them all here. Hope you can still hear me. So I'd imagine probably not chocolate because of the temperature. So they're going to be more kind of fruit-based, nougat-based. Again, a creamy pink nougat with nuts in. Yeah, really looking forward to all of these. And yeah, very kind of Scott to send me this huge bag of things. And the Turkish Delight as well. And looking forward to reading the letter because he always has a lot of interesting stuff to say. So I first got to know Scott through his podcast, which was called Tokyo Calling. And basically, at the time, I'd actually gone back to England. So I'd been living in Japan for about a year and a half, and my visa had run out and I couldn't get another one. So I was back in England, and it was one of the listening to it was one of the things that motivated me to get back to Japan. I really missed Japan. I wanted to be back in Japan. I felt I belonged in Japan. I was much happier in Japan. So I used to lie in my bed at night listening to Tokyo Calling. And because he had already been recording it for a while, there was a lot of old episodes to listen to. So I could listen to it very regularly. And it was such a joy. He has, I think he's worked in professional radio quite a bit in the past, so he's got an amazing radio voice, and he's such a fascinating character. He's introduced me to a lot of things, not just podcasting, but podcasting was a really big thing for me. Because of that, his podcast introduced another two podcasts actually. One was called Citizen Reporter, presented by Bicycle Mark, and again Mark was an early Mark and Scott were both early podcasters, and one of the things they both did were what they called soundscapes, where they'd sort of walk around with an MP3 recorder or an audio recorder, I guess, and they would be recording the sounds. So Mark would go out into the markets in Amsterdam with his recorder, and it was so exciting to just, you could feel you were there. Scott would go through the train stations, go through the subway stations, go through Shinjuku Station, which is one of the busiest stations in the world. I think it's in the rush hour, it is the busiest station in the world. There's a train every 90 seconds on the circle line around Tokyo called the Yamanote line. Scott would be riding the trains. Scott would buy drinks from the vending machines with his recorder going, or he'd go and sit in a park and be recording and just picking up the atmosphere. It was such an exciting time, and it also introduced me to another podcast called Finding Japan, presented by Christopher. And so I was sort of listening to those three podcasts, and then eventually there was one called Learn Japanese Pod as well with Alex Brooke, which was the first podcast about learning Japanese. And it was a time when podcasters mainly listened to each other's podcasts. But there were listeners like me as well who weren't podcasting at the time. And it was just such a treat to feel like I was back in Japan. It really kept me motivated to get back in Japan. So I'm incredibly grateful. I think all Tokyo Calling episodes are archived in various places. I think they're probably on archive.org somewhere, and I'm sure other people have archived them as well. And and hopefully one day there'll be a proper website again with a permanent archive there. But it's I just feel so lucky to know Scott. He's a true artist, and he sees the world through the eyes of an artist, and he's helped me see the world differently, I guess, and introduced me to, I think, the Walt Whitman. I'd never heard of Walt Whitman before talking to Scott, and that's just been wonderful finding about Walt Whitman, and I'm very interested in hobo culture, which is something Walt Whitman was very interested in. He spent time with hobos. Walt Whitman was a diarist. He wrote a book which I haven't unfortunately read yet, called Specimen Days. But I've read some of his poetry, and Scott's introduced me to so many things. And at the end of his podcast, he'd always have amazing music that was public domain music. So they used to call this pod safe music, because he was concerned about the copyright police or whatever. So that these websites where they were full of music that you could put on your podcast. So it was a very, very exciting time to get into podcasting, even just as a listener. Of course, later on I went and did a podcast of my own called Japan Podcast with my dear friend Terry McMillan. And that's still all online. You can find that, just japanpodcast.net or japanpodcast.org. I think both of those sites work. And really lucky to know Scott. He's been hugely supportive with me with my cancer. I talked on Skype, had a long conversation on Skype with him recently, and he's just a wonderful, wonderful person. And please do go and look for Tokyo Calling, the podcast, because it is out there on the web if you hunt around for it. And you may even find some of his amazing videos as well. He used to do weather reports, which was inspired by, I think it was David Lynch, and he'd do these quite surreal weather, very short weather reports in Tokyo. But he's one of the people that's really enriched my life a lot, and I'm very grateful to know him. So thank you, Scott, for this amazing package. And if you can support if anyone can support with my fundraiser, it's matthewdons.org, matthewdons.org. That's to pay for my immunotherapy, which may let me live a bit longer. It is my only hope, basically. I recently talked to another expert surgeon about the possibility of surgery, and it seems that's very unlikely in my case. So please, if you can, go to matthewdons.org and help me with my cancer fund, because that might give me more time to live, more time to spend with my kids, and that would be great. Thank you for listening, and thanks again, Scott, for the lovely gift.